Okay, so we are live. I am here with Ola. How do you pronounce your surname? Noose.
Nose.
Noose. Okay.
There's a strong OU that it has to just roll off your tongue, Nick.
Like Caroline Bose.
Like Caroline Bose. There we
go. So, Ola, thank you for joining me. I mean, we've known each other, more than 20
years. Give away your age.
Yeah, 22 years, I think we've known each other, just Absolutely. About. We did some touring of Europe together when we were 16 and 17. So we went to school together, and you've had a hell of a career. You are now an entrepreneur, and I couldn't think of a better person to have on my show to talk about starting things, shifting things, and generally just growing things. So thank you for having the time to join me. And why don't you start by introducing yourself and telling my viewers and listeners what you do and why they should listen to you?
Sure. What Nick isn't telling you is that he was head boy and a top 10 student throughout high school and has gone on to do great things. And
thanks, man.
Proud of him. So yeah, born and bred in Joburg. Went to school in Joburg as well. Studied at RAU. I did a BCom undergrad in marketing, what was known as RAU then, the University of Johannesburg. In 2006, I completed my undergrad and started working for Momentum Wealth in the client service team. Spent about a year and a half at Momentum Wealth. I then moved to First National Bank into what they call their segment marketing team in the retail business bank. Spent about 3 years there. And whilst I was there, I read for my honors in marketing. Completed that whilst I was at FNB. I then spent some time at a company called Stanford Sales. It was part of the Mvelapana group at the time. And then, I found my way to Ernst & Young. Started at Ernst & Young shortly after that stint at Stanford Sales. Spent a good 3.5 years at Ernst & Young as a management consultant in the strategy division. So that's been my sort of corporate career. While at EY, I also decided to read for a master's degree in business, and have been in advertising as the CEO of the Odd Number since 2015. That's me.
Okay. Amazing. Nice short précis. I think you also glanced over a whole bunch of your qualifications that I read in your bio one time that made me feel like I haven't done enough in my life. So good work. Okay, so let's dive right into the Odd Number. Now, part of the approach that you guys have and the banner that you wear very proudly is South Africa's #1 fully Black-owned agency. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we've been in existence for about 5 years, Nick. We're what would we call a mid-sized agency. When we won the Small Agency of the Year award last year in the Financial Mail at Focus Awards, we were a small agency at that point. We won it twice. We won it in 2017 and in 2019. We've managed to scale up. We're a mid-sized business now, just shy of 50 people. So that's considered mid in the advertising space. And we're still 100% Black-owned and not necessarily managed, but 100% Black-owned. So yes, we lead the charge as the sort of the mid-sized 100% Black-owned agency in the market.
Incredible.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Appreciate that.
Was that a calculated decision? I mean, being 100% Black-owned in South Africa has been very valuable in terms of winning tenders for a while, and now it's become obviously a very poignant topic with Black Lives Matter. So when you started out, I actually went to school with your co-founder too. We were all at school together. Did you and Sibusiso think this is the thing? Like, we have to lead the way and forge the way so that other people can see that you can have a Black-owned agency and thrive?
Yeah, look, that wasn't the motivation, Nick. What we wanted to do was build a great business, and that's still the motivation today. I think transformation is a hot topic in the market because very few sectors are transformed. Least of all the comm sector, right? So being a young Black-owned business that's producing great work resonates or should resonate a lot more than than the people leading it. That said, I think we one of our philosophies or principles is to grow our own timber, make sure that we bring people through the pipeline, specifically young Black talented individuals. Just because the market, it's not necessarily reflective of that in the market currently. So whilst the ambition or the North Star is to build the most iconic independent agency in Africa, we realize that the transformation imperative is key in doing so. So, from a procurement point of view, I think you'd know better than most that large corporates would want to procure from a transformed business, and that's the imperative. They should. I think what we want to do is produce great work and make sure that we have a great team that does so.
Yeah, love it. That's an amazing answer. So let's talk. I'm curious about your co-founder relationship. You and Sibusiso were friends at school. Did that precipitate you being co-founders, or did you guys kind of went on your own path and then found each other to start an agency together? Like, how did you choose your co-founder?
Yeah, so we met in junior school, but I think throughout school we took two different interests. Him more so the arts, drama. I took more to the sort of commerce subject, business economics and accounting. So we took divergent career paths, but what kept us connected over the years was this keen interest to start a business together one day. So we almost found that our skill sets coupled together positioned us well to start a business in the comm space, specifically an advertising agency. So whilst I don't think we deliberately chose each other. I think our core skill sets allowed for that decision to be quite easy and seamless. We to this day, I think we similar in a lot of ways, but quite different as well. And we look after different parts of the business. And I think it's helped in that we don't necessarily drive similar objectives in the business, but we have a keen interest in seeing the business succeed, and we hold each other accountable.
That's great. What do you say to people who have said it to me too, never work with family and friends? You obviously are working with a very close friend. I have worked with my life partner, co-founding a sock company for 7 years, and I worked with my mom, who I ended up firing after some issues in the business, which wasn't her fault, it was all my fault. So what do you say to people who are like never work with family and friends, because you've known each other for what, 25 years?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't knock it just because it's worked for us. We've also known each other, as you say, for just over 20 years. So it helped to transition into being business partners because we were friends, and we remain friends to this day. I think that's helped us, just because there was a core, foundation that was laid over a 20-year period or whatever. But what's more important is your value set being aligned. I think we espouse to the same values, just around our personal lives as well as what we want to do in the business. So that makes it a lot easier. So working with family and friends, I'd caution against it, only because research, a sample of one being Nick isn't really shows that
you'll end up firing your mom.
You can fire your mom. but I think broadly speaking, it's you get quite successful family-run organizations, and you get others that don't work out. So I think my view is try it, and if it works out for you, great, and if it doesn't, it's great because it's a lesson learned.
Yeah, cool. So I'm quite obsessed with the idea of starting things, and that's what this whole show is about. So the line of thinking here that I want to understand is, when you guys were like, fuck it, let's start an agency, what was the very first thing you did?
So our journey is quite interesting, Nick. So we registered the business in 2011, the odd number CC at the time.
CC as well.
Yeah.
Those don't exist anymore.
Right. Yeah. So we then launched. We only launched in 2015, in April of 2015. But that 4 or 5 year journey really allowed us to inform what it is that we want to do, but also growing our respective careers in corporate and making sure that we build some sort of equity in that space as well. So when we started, we didn't rush into it. I think we gave ourselves enough time to really grapple with the sort of business that we want to build, understanding the market. Sorry, Nick, that wasn't supposed to happen.
That's okay.
Understanding
lockdown life,
understanding the market, planning around how we want to compete in the market, where we see growth for our business. So we registered in 2011, but it only it took us 4 years to really get into the business. But throughout that period, we were building the business. I think we had business cards. We
While you were working full-time jobs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Whilst we were doing that, we worked on a project for a small company. I think we built about 80K at the time. We blew it like you can't believe. But that was great because it was we de-risked in a lot of ways. We bought ourselves some time to build out the business, as well as understand what it is that we want to do.
Okay. And while you are working full-time and building the side hustle, when are you working on these projects? In the evenings, on the weekends, sneaking in through lunch? And I ask because a lot of people build businesses this way, but don't know the rules for building a side hustle while you're full-time employed.
Yeah, I mean, the rule is to continue to still deliver in your 9 to 5. I think you still need to show value and show up daily. So we'd spend evenings, weekends. It helped that we'd hang out together regardless. So over a beer we'd chat about the happenings of the world as well as the business. But we were quite deliberate that at some point it's going to happen. We just didn't know when, but we were actively working on building out our business. So when it did eventually happen in 2015, I think those growing pains for us were different in that I think we had experienced them to some degree prior to us actually jumping ship.
And what was that tipping point that made you go, okay, now it's time, let's go full time and leave our jobs?
Sure. So I had just rolled off a project in East Africa. Spusiso had just rolled off a project, a campaign he did in West Africa and Nigeria. And I think we were just confident. We were sort of in that senior management sphere in our respective corporates. We felt that if we don't do it now, the likelihood of us ever doing it is slim to none. So we resigned. Well, we started the business on the 1st of April. April Fools, if you like. But
nice,
but without much thought or infrastructure. So what we didn't have significant startup capital. We didn't necessarily have a website or a business plan. We worked on that in the first 2 months of having resigned from our respective corporates. So what we did do is we decided that we can't work from our respective homes. We'd need a common area where we can find space to work and to share ideas. So we bought ourselves, I think it was 3 months office space at the what was known as the Regis Business Center, small shoebox office. But what that did for us psychologically was, now we actually in this, we better make this work. And we had an easel and we aggressively started working on the plan, the ideas, a hit list, just the identity of the business. We printed little brochures that we'd take to meetings with us and leave them with prospective clients. So whilst we didn't have significant infrastructure, what we did have was a plan, and we worked that plan. The barriers to entry in this specific industry are also quite low, right? I mean, you don't need heavy machinery, or a 3-story building. It helps, but you don't need it. What you need is a grit, effectively, a list of clients that you want to approach, and a portfolio of evidence work that you've done in the past that you can show for and speak to. And it helped that Spusiso, being a creative, had built up that repertoire, that portfolio that he could share, with prospective clients. And so we did that.
Yeah, I love that. What I also love, the key point that I'm picking up from that is you didn't start with the roadblocks of, oh, we don't have business cards, oh, we don't have a website, oh, we don't have a business plan. You had already been selling. You'd already spent 4 years doing the work, and you were just waiting for the right time to focus on those things.
Absolutely.
And it's so much of the feedback I get from people who want to start a side hustle. They're like, oh, but I don't have a website. Oh, I haven't registered a business. None of that stuff's relevant. Go out and sell.
Just start.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you guys have got this business going. You're in your small office. You've got a couple of sales. You're the business guy. So what was your plan for gaining more clients? Like, what did you do in year 1?
Yeah, so the sale only happened in month 3, Nick.
Wow.
Of relationships are key. So as I mentioned, Spusiso was had worked for one of the large multinational agencies in the market. and with that comes large clients, large portfolios that you get to work on. So, having left corporate, what he didn't leave behind is the relationships and the connections he had in the market. So what we did was firstly reintroduce ourselves to that audience, that sort of CMO audience, to say, look, we're the odd number. We're young, talented guys looking to start an agency. We have sort of a portfolio of evidence in the work that we've done, both creatively and commercially. Give us an opportunity. So that opportunity came in month 3, actually, through KFC Africa, a campaign, a 360 campaign, Bar TV, to launch in the East and West market. Again, that was off the strength of the relationship my partner had with the client. So whilst it didn't happen in month 1, we were working for it eventually happening, so that when it did happen, we weren't caught with our pants down. We had the required systems needed to sort of run an advertising agency. We had a network of freelancers that we could call on to help bang out the work. We had the requisite tools of the trade, effectively, to make sure that we can deliver without our quality being questioned or compromised.
And no full-time employees at this point, just the two of you, and then you're pulling in outsourced partners.
100%.
Like nice and lean, right?
Absolutely. I mean, at that point, we had to run lean. I mean, the only overhead at the time was, the rent that we had to provision for whilst we were at the business center.
Genius. And when you say that, that means you weren't paying yourselves a salary for the first 3 months either.
No. So those 3 months were tough, but even then, we knew the opportunity was imminent. We really did. And when it landed, I'll never forget that Friday. I had to pull over because I got the in contact message on my phone. And this is after having not received a salary in like 2-3 months. So, you can imagine what happened that weekend.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Okay, so I've been building research for this third book of mine that I'm writing now, and part of it has been this thing that the Japanese call Ikigai, which is your reason for being, your reason for existing, and it's kind of their understanding of your vocation, the thing that you're called to do. Do you believe in the idea of a vocation or a reason for being, or do you believe that people just do what they have to do?
Yeah, I think most people get caught up in just doing what they have to. I think when you sort of aspire for your higher self, you understand that there is a calling, there is something that's uniquely meant for you or for yourself. I think when what you really love and what you're really good at meet or converge, that's your higher self. That's that you meeting your vocation. I think the level beyond that is now when you can derive some sort of economic benefit from that, but also give back in some way. So I think it's part of just being purpose-led around what it is that you do, and it all just coming together for the greater good, not necessarily for the self. So I do.
Nice.
I do.
Yeah, nice. I dig that. So young agencies and young businesses generally obviously struggle and suffer from failures as they go. It's part of the way you do things, is you fail occasionally. What's your view on failure? Like, how do you personally deal with it, and how does your business deal with it?
I think we're learning, Nick. So I've always believed, you need to fail forward. I think you need to recognize your shortcomings in that process of failing. We had a heavy blow. I think it was in 2018 where we lost a major client. We almost lost 60% of our business overnight.
That's the agency business, eh? It's brutal.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, we felt it. What we learned from that was that we're not infallible. I think we make mistakes. But coming out of that, what it taught us is that we need to look after the detail. It's the small things that contracting, agreements, making sure that our team understand what it is that we need to deliver and the expectations thereof. And so that was the lesson coming out of that. So what could be deemed as failure for us was probably the biggest lesson we've had in our journey, and it happened at the right time for us. I think it happened when we had won this client and we lost this client within 3 months or something. So to win a big client and to lose a big client, in a period of 3 months was quite a heavy blow. So that was, I guess, failure, what could be deemed as failure. But I think for us, it was just understanding our shortcomings and making sure that we can call on or draw on people that can help us through our journey, and also make sure we don't make the same mistakes again.
Cool. And I mean, I would obviously be remiss not to talk about the, I like to call it the microscopic elephant in the room, that we're in the middle of a global pandemic and South Africa has been hit really hard by this lockdown. Never mind the fact that we were in a recession before that. Like, it's just complicated. So how is your business coping and dealing with it and been affected in any way, if at all?
Yeah, I think the buzzwords over the past 90 days have been unprecedented,
Oh, yeah.
new normal, and pivot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, give me your view on all three of those.
right? But they all hold true, right? I mean, as cliche as it may sound, I think you're forced to unpack all three of those for your business. I think it's definitely uncharted territory for us. We're working hard at keeping our ship afloat. We haven't necessarily been forced to re-engineer our operating model or pivot, just because I think we laid quite a solid foundation. And it is unprecedented, because I don't think anybody knows how to react to just this new order. So we fortunately haven't been hard hit by it. We've actually grown over the past 90 days. We've onboarded about 11 new people.
Wow.
But, we had also committed to this in the beginning of the year, so it was always part of our plan. But I think we're fortunate in that we have a list of clients that believe in the sort of work that we do, that see value in the work that we do, and are taking us along the journey that they're on. I also think a lot of corporates have learned from 2008, just around still investing in marketing and making sure that you remain relevant in the market and you remain authentic in the market, and that it's not now is not necessarily a time to for that sell or that cold approach. So we're working closely with our clients to make sure that we remain relevant in the market and provide solutions that are transformational and innovative. So again, by God, we still here, and we're growing.
That's incredible. And so you said, which I think I agree with, is now is not really the time to do a cold sell, but how are you approaching new business? Like, if you had to give advice to a smaller agency out there who's trying to survive, how are they supposed to go out and sell when no one's got money, which I don't believe is true, but no one's like committing to anything yet? What's your strategy?
Sure. I think you must understand that this may not be your profit year. I think if you can break even, that's great. I think focus on that. I think your clients' budgets are strained, obviously. I think what you can do is manage your margin a lot better. I think it's time to deliver value for your client, because once we get over it, they'll remember the good times. So I think as an entrepreneur and as a business head, it's important to put your growth ambition sort of on the back burner for now. Focus on remaining relevant to your client. And right now, it's not all about the CEs and the invoicing, and it's really about making sure that you can deliver value and that you can sustain your business, because we will come out of it.
100%, and that's the truth, right? It isn't really a new normal. It's an accelerated normal that we're going to get back to. People are going to spend money. There's always going to be advertising and marketing. Yeah,
absolutely, Nick.
So what is your definition of success? And I mean, for you personally and or for the business, and to preempt this question, give you where I think my head is. My definition of success when I was in my early 20s was a business with 1,000 people, $1 billion in turnover in 50 countries. And now, off the air, you and I were talking that my definition of success is a one-person company that I can operate from anywhere in the world with no staff.
Yeah.
So how do you and Sibusiso figure success for your company?
I mean, I can speak for myself. We probably have different views, but I think again the gold standard, the North Star for us is to build a leading independent agency group, right? That will be success. But I think we're on a journey. We're on a journey to get there. So success would have meant different things at varying points in our lives, both personally and professionally. I think for me, success right now on a personal level is probably about comfort and not necessarily excess, right? I think success from a professional level is growing our business, making sure we meet our strategic objectives. I think it's making sure that we remain in the market and continue to deliver on leading clients that are leaders in their specific sectors. So not just doing work for the sake of doing work. It's working with the best in class. I think success is making sure that we can meet our commitments at the end of every month. I mean, that basic. Making sure that we look after our team members, both personally and professionally, and just being human in our interactions with our team members, and not sort of transact at an arm's length with people, specifically those that we spend 40 hours a week with, and oftentimes more. So success from a commercial point is making sure that we run a happy, healthy business, and on a professional level or on a personal level, it's much the same.
Cool. This ties into that. Culture is super important. We both know scaling businesses is extremely hard, from 0 to 50 and then from 50 to 200 and on. So do you have specific hiring practices that you put in place at the Odd Number to make sure you're trying to get the right people in place? And the theory that a lot of businesses know is hire slowly, fire quickly, which is extremely difficult in South Africa with labor laws the way they are. But do you have specific hiring practices? And the thing that comes to mind is Rob Stokes at Quirk has or used to have a 6-part hiring process, for example, where first you talk to the interns, and then the middle management, and then the senior manager. Blah, blah, blah. Do you do anything like that?
Yeah. So I hire slow, fire fast is definitely a principle. It often gets bandied about by those who run businesses or who've been in large scale corporates. As you've rightfully pointed out, it's not necessarily that easy, nor is it the right thing to do. I think we've learned over the years, we've gotten it very right, and sometimes we miss the mark. We spoke about, we were actually just chatting about it yesterday, where I think what we're going to start doing now at a sort of a mid to senior level is actually across the business, is start having psychometrics. I think there's certain things that you don't see or experience in that hour that you sit with somebody, or in the first 3 months. Certain things start revealing themselves, month 6 or month 7 into your journey together. We look for EQ. I think for us, it's important that you have a high emotional intelligence. We really believe that, we need people that can read between the lines. I think people who can relate to people at all levels, both internally as well as with our external stakeholders. We believe in a process, so we don't own the hiring process. Myself and my partner, we allow our senior managers and the rest of our exco team to own that process, so that we can hold them accountable, or champion them. It's important to involve those people, specifically direct reports. So whilst we may sort of be involved in the biographical interview, and getting a sense of the person, it's important that whoever that they're reporting to owns that hiring decision. So I think it's important, because as you've pointed out, culture is key, and we need to, if anything, what we need to do is just curate the culture in our business, and that's making sure that the right people coming in and the right people staying and growing in the business. I think firing people or parting ways with people is quite difficult. I mean, it's easier said than done. It's not something that you want to do. What you want to do is help people grow, and possibly grow within the business, or grow within the industry. Maybe your business isn't the right channel or platform for them, and it's important to be mature enough to understand that. I think at a certain level, we expect that you understand the basics in delivering operationally in your role, but what we look for is more the strategic, and how it is that you can grow yourself in the organization as well as grow the business effectively. I also personally believe that it's difficult to have more than 7 direct reports. I think you lose the quality of detail and intimacy in relationships if you've got more than 7 people reporting into you. So we manage that quite carefully. Just the ratio around executive to staff members. But yeah, I think your question was around culture and staffing up, and I think culture is key because you need to manage that daily, but it's also driven by people, so you need to manage that daily as well.
Yeah, I think your point on EQ is such a valuable one, and especially and I don't know why this is relevant, but I think it is, in a post-corona world, intelligence isn't enough.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence on top of IQ is more important. There are lots of smart people in the world, but it's those that can navigate the politics effectively that get ahead.
100%.
And you need that EQ to make it work.
100%.
People, the best artist or designer in the world who doesn't read their clients' needs properly is never going to produce the best work.
Spot on. But also, Nick, the best engineer doesn't necessarily make the best manager of engineers, right?
100%.
And that's also key. That's also key.
So interestingly, that I've written about it's called the Peter Principle, where people are promoted to their next level of incompetence. And there is a very good example that we can relate to that I use quite often from school.
Yeah.
If you can think of a headmaster that you did not like, and think of their job before they were a headmaster. They were probably just an English teacher, and they were an exceptionally good English teacher.
Yeah.
And then they were like, crap, I've been an English teacher for 15 years. I need to earn more money. Let me be the head of the English department.
Yeah.
And then they go and become the head of the English department, the head of the academic department, and then they get promoted to be the head of school, but they are not trained to run a school. They're trained to be an English teacher. And that's the Peter Principle in place.
It happens.
Yeah. It happens in corporate worlds. That's why most of your managers are shit, because they're not qualified managers. They're qualified at their job, and they
100%.
got promoted because they needed a raise.
100%. And that's okay, right? I mean, it's okay to be qualified at your job and grow within that, right? Yeah.
As long as you're admitting what you don't know, I suppose. That's the interesting part, right? And that's where EQ comes in. Where you can go, hold on, I need some help. I want to be a manager, but I need you to help me get there.
100%.
Yeah. So in your business, what is your money thesis? And the prerequisite to this question is a lot of people starting businesses don't like the idea of spending money to make money. It's hard to put money out there to build a website or to do whatever, hire your first person. You're like, no, screw it. I won't spend the money on a new person. I'll just do all the work. But actually, a lot of the time, spending money helps you make more money. How did you navigate that early on, and how do you navigate that now? What's your view on money?
Yeah, look, I'll give you an honest view once I've made some. So I'll just
you and me both. Yeah, I hear you.
But I think where we are right now is investing in, firstly, our business, but also in the value chain that supports or drives our business, right? So, being in the comm space and running an advertising agency, we at the obviously at the core phase of the work that we produce for clients, and we take that to client. But there's a number of stakeholders involved in the process leading up to delivering that work, whether it's production, whether it's PR or activations, and those often run as separate P&Ls or separate businesses that collaborate with yours in order to deliver the final product. So our philosophy is really making sure that firstly we control the output at all levels, at varying levels, but also in the long run in building out a group and a holding company, making sure that we're invested in those various entities. You don't want to give away margin, but what you'd want to do is bring it in within your group, make sure you control the quality that goes up, but also realize value from a balance sheet point of view from those. So our philosophy is really around making sure that we invest in the value chain that supports our business. But on a personal level, I feel there's enough for it to go around. I mean, there's and I don't mean that in a flippant manner. I mean that quite earnestly. I think it's money is a means, not necessarily the end. I think what you need to aspire for is quality at every touch point in your business, and it'll come together eventually.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And I agree, it's not a flippant statement, but there is lots of money out there.
100%.
And it's a comment I get all the time from young entrepreneurs. Oh, I can't raise money. There's no money in the world. And I'm like, no. Bad ideas are everywhere. Bad founders are everywhere, and money is everywhere. If you're a good idea with a good founder, you're going to find money.
100%. And so what we did early on, Nick, is we were quite fortunate to partner with a large multinational where we were part of their enterprise development program. So what that does is, it's not necessarily cash in your bank at the end of every month, but what you get almost instantly is infrastructure. You get IT support, you get HR support, and you have a sounding board, if you like. So whilst that may not be, you can't possibly quantify that in your management accounts, but it'll certainly add value to your business going forward. Firstly, you've got infrastructure where you can bring your client and present, and hopefully, start working on the client, and then that's when you start realizing the money. So I think access to money shouldn't be a barrier to you starting anything. There's various ways to access leverage.
100% agree. So while we're talking about money, something that I've been fascinated with for a while since starting my sock company like 8 years ago is the idea of pricing and positioning. And the agency space is very cluttered globally and locally. Lots of agencies, boutique, specific, independent, big, small, all over. How did you guys price yourselves to position yourself in the market? Are you exactly where everyone else is? Are you more expensive and more premium? Are you cheaper and with less margin? Like, what was your idea and thinking around this, or is it different for every client?
Yeah, I think it's different for every client. I mean, you'd price differently on retained earnings versus the ad hoc project work. But just in the industry as well, there's a body that governs how we price effectively. So most agencies are similarly priced. I guess what influence pricing or rate card is overhead. We run at different overheads just because of the varying scales that we find ourselves in. But I think where we positioned ourselves wasn't necessarily on price. I think it was on the quality of our work and understanding the zeitgeist, if you like, of the day. We believe in powerful, nuanced, insightful communication. We believe, we understand the market a lot better than most because, we live in the market. We're affair with the market. We the nuance of the market isn't learned from a case study or a book. It's a lived experience, and we can demonstrate all of that in the work that we do, and we have over the past 5 years. So we positioned ourselves on the quality of our work based on our understanding of the market. We've not found ourselves in a position where our value is being questioned. Or our commercial model is questioned. It will be just because procurement does that, and you learn very quickly that they do that with everybody. But it's also just being firm around backing yourself and backing the value that you bring. I mean, I think what we found early on was that we'd find ourselves on pitch lists with large agencies who run different overheads, so their pricing would obviously be different to ours. But we'd fight for the numbers. I mean, we'd fight for the same value that they would earn had they won that account. So that's worked in our favor. But yeah,
it's great advice.
Yeah.
Cool. So I do understand that your co-founder is the more creative side of the business and you're more the business side of it, but agencies are creative businesses. How do you guys provoke and promote creativity with yourselves as well as with your teams? Because it's quite hard to actually turn on creativity when you have to.
Yeah, I think firstly, I have to say, I mean, I was in consulting for about 3.5, 4 years, and I found that creatives are probably some of the smartest people I've met and have an opportunity to work with on a daily basis. So, having to immerse yourself in an industry or a market or a sector and then come up with creative solutions to drive business challenges it's beyond me. It's very difficult. So you're quite right in being creative is difficult, especially more so when you're working on 4 or 5 briefs, 4 or 5 different industries, and you expect it to perform at a very top level. how we drive creativity is quite deliberate. So my partners in the business drive creativity through what we call proactive sessions. So every week, every creative team member has an opportunity to work on a live brief or a proactive brief, which they will bring to the team, share it with a team, and if it works, we produce that work, and if it doesn't, we work at refining it and making it better. So it's definitely training that muscle deliberately. But I also think, creators, when they get to the agency, they've already been on a journey around how to deliver at an optimal level, but also when under pressure, and how to tap into that solve when it's difficult to come by. Um, Training and development is quite key. We're trying to figure that out. I think it's not as clear as it would be in sort of mainstream corporate, where there's multiple programs you can go on to further develop your skill set. So one of the ways we're doing is trying to understand where the knowledge gap is, and making sure that we drive certain programs to make sure that the guys make the cut, I guess. But it's not just the creative team. I mean, the agency is made up of production team members, strategy, client service, operations, etc. So I think we all need to be creative in the solutions we drive, whether it's for a system or a process, or how we deliver to clients ultimately. So whilst ours is not sort of the creative solution that you see on TV or hear on radio or see in a print ad, ours is creativity in the process that drives that solution to market.
Oh, yeah, love it. So I know that you're married and you've got kids. What is the integration of your work life like, having kids and a partner and a life outside of business? So I don't really believe in the idea of balance. I think that's a false dichotomy, that you must balance your work and your life. I think that they're the same thing. You just have to figure out how to integrate them. So how do you do it?
Yeah, I lost you there, Nick, but I got the gist of the question. Sure. Are you still there?
Yeah, still there. We can still hear you.
Cool. So I think the two I think in the past 90 days or so, I've forced to sort of see how we integrate those, quite literally. But for a long time, the two have been quite devolved from each other. Again, when you read books generally on business and guys who've done well in running their own businesses, they often refer a lot to the support structure that they have in their families, whether it's partner, kids, or whatever. So I increasingly understand the importance of having both take center stage in your life. I think it's understanding the trade-off between the two and how to manage that. So yeah, it's not a perfect science at this stage around how I do it, but you say you don't believe in that balance. I think there is a balance, quite frankly, and one isn't more important than the other. You still there, Nick?
Okay. Oh, yeah, still there. Still hear you. That was yeah.
You're still there.
Nope, still there, and I got that answer perfect. So sticking with the theme of friends.
What's
and
your
family,
take, Nick? I mean, you don't believe in that balance. Why do you say that?
Yeah. So I've spent a lot of time fighting with this idea of which one is more important, right? Your career or your life. And one of the sayings that I hate the most in business is, it's just business. I didn't mean anything. It's just business. Fuck you. This is personal to me. Like, this is my life. This is what I do. This is what I put my heart and soul into. This is what I live and think about all the time. So for me, there is no balance. My partner understands that I'm here to build things. She supports me in that. And my family, whether they like it or not, must understand that this is the way that I am. And one of my closest friends taught me this lesson better than anyone else. He is a professional Ferrari racing driver in Europe, and he will be gone for weeks on end and won't speak to anyone. And you message him and he just ignores you. And then he'll come out of this racing frenzy and he'll be like, hey, bro, what's up? And initially, 10, 11 years ago, I was like, dude, screw you. I'm done with you. Like, it's been 4 weeks. You haven't, and he was like,
Yeah.
Don't take offense. I'm busy. Like, I've got a life. I
Yeah.
have things that I'm doing that aren't about you. And so he kind of taught me to be resilient to this, that the people who really believe in you, they understand that you're building a life. So for me, my work is part of my life. It's integrated into who I am. You get Nick at work and you get Nick at home. They're the same Nick. They're not different. I'm not an asshole at work and a nice guy at home. I'm an asshole altogether. So you got to know who I am in both business and life. And what bugs me a lot is when people are, and agencies are like this. There are lots of agency people I know. They're these big badass creatives at work, and then they get home and they're these mean-spirited dicks.
Sure.
And I'm not fond of that. You can't be a different person. Like, work is work and life is life, and they're part of the same brain. I can't separate them. That's how I see it.
Yeah. I take your point around, it being important to have the same version of yourself constantly, whether you're dealing with, your family, your friends, or your colleagues. So that I take. I do, however, think that, it is a balance, because I think you almost, depending on what you do on a day-to-day basis, but you assume a different role when you're with your clients or your team members, right? I think you can be a lot more forgiving probably when you're at home than you can be at the office, or vice versa. So I think you're forced to assume different roles. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to bring a different version of yourself. I think you need to hold true to your core and your values, but make the tough decisions as and when you need to. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think the difficult thing for me is a lot of people, and I don't think you're in this camp because you love what you do and you love being at home. But a lot of people that I experience, they use work as a place to escape their life, or they use their life as a place to justify a shitty job. Like, oh, I have to do this job that I hate because I must buy food. Well, no, you don't have, it's not binary. You get to choose. And you and I are both privileged. We had privileged upbringings at private schools. So we get to choose. You don't have to. One is, in my life, one is not more important than the other. My work is as important as my relationship because it defines who I am in equal measures.
Yeah, spot on. One is not more important than the other. I buy that. I buy that completely.
Cool. I love it when my guests disagree with me. It creates such an interesting debate. But sticking with this point, I'm curious. Say again?
I'd be keen to see what the viewers or listeners think. I think it would be it's an interesting topic. Anyway,
yeah. If you're here, type us a view on integration. There's about 8 people online. Let us know. So sticking with the friends thing, have you had to make any difficult work-based decisions that have led to people disliking you and your decision, and like a loss of friends along the way? And it plays directly into this integration or balance conversation. For example, that friend of mine who chose not to see his friends for 4 or 5 weeks at a time, he'd lost a lot of friends, and they don't see him anymore because it's not a two-way street. So have you had anything like that? It's okay if you haven't. I'm just curious.
Yeah. No, in all honesty, not. I think post varsity you take to different interests regardless, and I think along your respective journeys you may gain friends or lose a few in the process. I personally just believe in a small collective of people that firstly I've known for yonks, as well as people that I trust, and besides the fact that Spoo is my friend and my business partner, is not I don't necessarily get into business with friends or family, so it's easy to continue on my journey without having to lose people or reconsider certain relationships because of the journey that I'm on. And yeah, I think I've also just been quite deliberate about that. I mean, if had we been the sort of partnership where it's all about friends and the pursuit of friendships over everything else, we'd have a lot of our friends working in the business. That's not to say we haven't had friends or friendships in the business that spill away into our personal lives. That does happen, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with it, because when we do need to have those tough conversations, as and when they happen, it's actually quite seamless to do so because you're playing the ball and not the man.
Yeah, that makes sense. Good answer. So if you had to pick one trait that makes an entrepreneur, in your experience, what would that one be? One useful trait?
I think, quite honestly, grit. And I think with that comes a resilience in the midst of uncharted territory, in the midst of storms, and just finding yourselves in a place where you can't see yourself coming out of it. I think you're gonna face many challenges, different challenges. I think as you grow and scale your business, people issues predominantly become what you spend a lot of your time on, and it's not necessarily people internally, but it's also just people in your ecosystem, managing relationships, managing people. I think it's important to have a thick skin and just a resilience that guides you through those difficult moments. And I think it's probably learned over time, but it's important to step back and recognize when those lessons are unfolding before you, and understand them for what they are, and not throw in the towel at that point. So grit in a nutshell. What's your take?
Yeah, actually, resilience is very much top three, grit and resilience, because I think, sure, since 16, I've started 13 businesses, 10 failed. The first seven were all failures, first eight. So you got to learn to be resilient. You cannot build anything of meaning without failure.
Yeah.
And if you are completely shattered by a failure, then you're never going to grow. And it's a very South Africanism that we think we got one shot.
Yeah.
We can't fail. We got one version of this. And if we fail, we're out. I'm going to go get my job.
Yeah.
And it's just not how I've ever been.
Sure.
I've just been that dogged idiot who goes, oh, I don't mind if you don't agree. I'm going to just keep going.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep going. You think I'm wrong? Cool. I just disagree with you. I'm just going to keep going.
Sure.
Because every good idea when it starts out sounds crazy.
Yeah.
When Steve Jobs said he wanted to build the iPhone, no one went, cool, bro, good idea. Everyone went, no, that's crazy. It's impossible. It's never going to work.
Yeah.
And he just went, screw you, I'm going to do it anyways.
And it's okay not
so I think you're right.
A business. It's okay not to be an entrepreneur. It's okay to grow your career in the confines of corporate and
100%.
That's okay. I mean, you get very successful people who are in corporate, more so successful than entrepreneurs, or have access to a lot more resources than entrepreneurs. It's
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And weirdly, in the last decade or so, it's become cool to be an entrepreneur. And I've spent the last 10 years saying to people, it is not cool. This is why I have no hair. This is why I see a psychologist. This is hard.
Yeah.
Like, this shit is hard.
It is.
And if everyone was an entrepreneur, who would work in our businesses?
100%.
Like, this is not the world we live in, right? We need different people to have different kinds of interests.
Yeah.
And on that point, do you have any book recommendations? Like, what kind of books do you read to gain knowledge? How often do you read? And give me one or two books that have kind of moved you to action.
I know why you asked that. Because I thoroughly enjoyed your book.
Thank you. It's Do Fail, Learn, Repeat.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that book. I think I read it.
Thank you.
I read it in 2017 or 2018, and I remember just screen grabbing some of the chapters or pages I was reading and sending them to Smooth, my partner, only because I think the book landed at the right time. So I'm a firm
timing.
believer. Yeah, timing is key. So I'm a firm believer in certain books finding themselves or finding their way to you at various points in your life. I'm thoroughly enjoying. Well, I'm enjoying. Is it Pablo Fatidis' book right now? Sweat, Sell, Scale. Just because it's an easy read. I'm thinking about investment models right now in the advertising space. That's just something that I'm reading up on now. So that book just resonates with me, just around how to scale, and and the role you should be playing as a business leader in your business. So he talks about being on the deck and not necessarily being operational, and being on the deck so that you can sort of see what's in the periphery or horizon, and work on scenario planning and strategy instead of being in the day to day, because you get lost, or you end up being the figurehead of the business, and there not being much value in the business outside of you. There's a couple. Hey Nick, I'm on the spot right now.
Oh,
There's
no, that's fine. That's great.
There's a lot. As I think
do
of them,
you read?
I'll let you know.
Cool, yeah. Do you read business books about business to help you? And the reason I ask that is I read a lot of fiction, and some of the most mind-expanding business knowledge I've gained has been from fiction, and it's given me a different and interesting perspective on the world. My favorite book of all time is a sci-fi novel called The Three Body Problem that talks about the universe and quantum physics and all sorts of interesting stuff, but has nothing to do with business. But just exploded my brain.
Yeah, I read business books to learn, and I read autobiographies. That's my thing. I take to that quite a bit. And so what I find that I do increasingly now, more so than ever, is I've like got a notepad just when I read stuff, and just jot my notes, and just to refer to something in the months as I've read the book, and I need to refer to something that I read that's just sort of come top of mind. I think it's important to do so. So I thoroughly enjoy those books. So one of the books that it's quite an interesting read for everybody who wants to pursue a career in business, is From Good to Great. It's I found it to be quite a difficult book, because I think when I initially got it, I just couldn't quite relate to the concepts and just everything that's quite heavy in that book. It's still I think it's an important book, quite a difficult one to get through. So I love autobiographies, Nick, as well as business books. But that's what I've been reading, from my school days. That's what I've taken to, and that I quite enjoy that.
Yeah, spot on. So I'm the same. I kind of read biographies, autobiographies, and business biographies. So business books about how businesses started. So, for example, the Toyota book was riveting. Nissan, Nintendo, the Walmart book was incredible. So many like that tell you how this business developed. I mean, Nintendo started as a card company. They built playing cards back hundreds of years ago.
Sure.
And who the hell knew? Now they've got games and Mario.
100%.
It's incredible.
100%.
I love that sort of stuff.
Awesome.
Okay, so in closing, what is your piece of advice to someone starting out? Like, what you wish someone told you when you were starting The Odd Number?
Firstly, I think it's important just to start, and by that I mean arm yourself with what you believe is required to get you started, right? So if you don't have a business background, start reading up on how businesses are started, or the various principles in business, or various subsets that make business happen, whether it's operations, whether it's finance, whether it's strategy. So start arming yourself around how to make a business, how to put together a business. I think depending on the sort of person that you are, it's important to find a partner or a person that complements your skill set. It's quite a lonely journey, and it's important when you can work with somebody whose skill set complements yours, but helps in stitching together the solution that you take to market. It's important to ask for help, as and when you need to along the journey. And often help comes from anywhere, quite frankly. I think the notion that you need money to start a business is false. I think it's important to understand what the mechanisms are in the market to help businesses start and scale. There's plenty of them that exist. One of them is enterprise development. So if you're looking to start a business in a particular market, build a kit for a corporate to take an interest in helping you through that pipeline. So an incubation process of sort. I also believe it's quite important to think big, but also be mindful of the milestones required to get to that end state. I think there's no point in playing small. If you're going to do it, throw everything at it, because it'll show quite obviously. It's in the small detail. I think it's in the way you present yourselves to client. It's in the way you present your business to the client. It's in the way you deliver your work package. Take yourself seriously throughout the process. And I mean that I'm just sort of reiterating what's worked for me personally. But I think there's certain principles that work for everybody, and I think I've mentioned one or two of those.
I think everything you said is spot on. If you're thinking of starting a business, that's brilliant advice. So the final thing I ask my guests to do is tell my listeners where they can find you, where they can follow you, and where they can spend money with you.
Oh gosh, lovely. Spend money with me. That's so LinkedIn. I love that platform more so than Twitter. You won't find me on Twitter. If you really want to reach out to me, you can do so on LinkedIn or at our agency. So if you go onto our website, you should find out details there, or certainly find a way to get in touch with me. But if you're really serious about your business, you can reach me on LinkedIn. And that's about it, really.
What's the web URL? What's the website URL?
theoddnumber.co.za.
Oddnumber.co.za. Awesome. Xola, thank you so much. I hugely appreciate your brain. It was a pleasure listening to you talk and finding out about your journey. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Odd Number grow.
Thank you so much, Nick. I appreciate it. Very proud of the work that you've done over the past 2 years.
Thank
I think your foray into entrepreneurship gave us the impetus to start watching you from a distance. I think you worked for the Financial Mail as a journal, right?
I did, yeah.
With Nick, Harry Socks, with the first book that you launched. It's just been amazing to watch from a distance.